Hi guys, so today we're checking out the Barricade Battalion stubby front bumper fitting all 2018 and newer JL Wranglers. So if you're a fan of the stubby front bumper design and you're looking for one that's affordable, functional, and also stylish, this option by Barricade is going to be a great choice to take a look into. So this one is going to come with a number of different benefits, perfect if you're looking for a stubby front bumper in particular that is going to give you recovery options as far as light mounting goes and of course protection. Now if you're going off-road a lot, this is going to be a great bumper to take a look into, considering that this will be able to hold a winch. It's going to have a top-mounted winch plate capable of holding a winch with up to a 12,000 pound pulling capacity, and it's going to have two welded D-ring mounts, and it comes with D-rings on the front. That's going to be great if you're looking for a little bit of peace of mind while you take your Jeep off-road, whether you're with friends or you're going off-roading by yourself. Now, like I said, this is going to give you some extra protection. You're going to have this bull bar up top that's going to give you some grille protection. You're going to have light mounting options, and this is also going to be modular, so you can customize this bumper to really however you want to set it up. If you want to include the bull bar up top, you can. If you want to take it off, you can do that as well. It kind of gives you some options, and I do really like that out of this setup. Not to mention, the stubby design is going to be great for somebody who is concerned about their approach angles, about their clearance while they're off-roading, and if you are looking to add larger wheels and tires and again are concerned about that clearance on the side, a stubby front bumper is going to be great for you, and this one is going to provide all the standard benefits and a lot of styling and heavy-duty off-road aesthetics to the front end of the Jeep as well. Now with that being said, this is going to come in at roughly $350, which will be a more affordable price point for a front bumper on the page. Now, a lot of the time, the price comes down to all the accessories included as well as the width of the front bumper. And again, this is going to have all of the basics, everything that you would want out of a front bumper, but it's not going to have all of the bells and whistles that some of them come with. So some of their options may include LED light mounting points, not only just up on top, but maybe in the bumper as well, or they'll come with accessory lighting or LED lighting included in the kit. Not to mention, if you do get a mid-width or are looking into a mid-width or a full-width front bumper, that is going to cost you a little bit more. But like I said before, if you are concerned about those approach angles and about that clearance on the side, and you're also looking for a front bumper that is affordable, this option by Barricade is going to be a great choice. As far as install is concerned, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. It's not really a whole lot that you have to do here in order to get your factory bumper off and this new bumper on. You're going to need some very basic hand tools and probably an hour's worth of your time to get the job done. So speaking of the install, let's jump into that now. The tools that I used for my install were an electric ratchet, a trim removal tool, Phillips head screwdriver, 13mm ratcheting wrench, 7mm open-ended wrench, an 18mm, 16mm, 13mm, 8mm, and 7mm socket, a T20 torque socket, an impact wrench, the 2 provided Allen keys, and a 3-inch extension. So our first step to this install is to take off our upper splash shield. Now for this, you're going to need a trim removal tool. We're going to remove the couple of pop clips that are holding it in. You're going to have 2 on the main frame rail part, and then we're going to have a couple along the front. So you're also going to have 2 7mm screws on either side on the back here at the corner of this splash guard. Now, we do not have any in there, so what we can do at this point is remove them or remove our upper splash guard, but you would need a 7mm socket in order to remove that. Now we can head underneath the Jeep. So our next step is to remove our lower splash shield. Now there are 2 8mm screws on the back that we need to remove first. I'm going to use an 8mm socket. I'm also using just a small extension here to give myself some room. My electric ratchet. Then there are going to be multiple clips up at the front that are holding in the front of the splash shield. I am going to take my trim removal tool that we used up top, and we can remove those. Once all of those are removed, we can fully remove the splash shield. Next, we can remove our skid plate. There's going to be 2 16mm bolts on either side. I'm going to use a 16mm socket, my electric ratchet, to remove those. Once both bolts are removed, we can push up on the shield and pull it out. Next, what we need to do is disconnect our fog light wiring harness. There's just going to be one connector for the main harness. Just press down, pull back, and then we can start to remove the hardware that's holding on our bumper. So I'm going to use an 18mm socket and a small extension and my electric ratchet, and we're going to remove the nuts that's holding on the front bumper. So this may be a little bit difficult to see because of the splash guard on the side, but we're going to take an 18mm socket and remove the 2 nuts on the outside of our frame rail that are holding on our bumper. Then we can repeat that for the other 6 studs. So at this point, what we need to do is just pull our bumper back and off of the frame rail. So what we have to do at this point is remove our fog lights because we do have to swap them into our new bumper. There's going to be multiple 7mm screws surrounding each of the splash guards. Now what I'm going to do is take a 7mm socket and just go ahead and remove those. I would be careful using a power tool or even just extracting these in general, just because the bumper is plastic and the retainer clip can spin in the back if the bolt does get stuck. So just be mindful of that while you're removing the bolts. And we can do the same thing on the other side. At this point, we need to disconnect our fog light, and then we can take out the 3 screws that are holding it in. I'm going to use a T20 Torx socket in order to remove those. Then we can do the same thing on the other side. So we will need to transfer over this wiring harness, however it's behind our crash bar here. So what I'm going to do is remove the 4 bolts that are holding the crash bar to the actual plastic part of the bumper using a 13mm socket. I'm also using a small extension just to clear the crash bar. Once those 4 bolts are removed, we can lift up. And being careful of the wiring harness, we can place this to the side for a second. And you can see that it's held in by a number of clips. I'm going to use a trim removal tool, and we can just start removing those clips. If the tow hook is in the way, you can just pop that out of place. So after the fog lights are removed and the fog light wiring harness is removed, we can start to assemble our new bumper. So before we go ahead and put together our new Barricade front bumper, I do want to stop down, tell you guys a little bit more about it and what benefits that you're going to get out of this new front bumper by Barricade in comparison to our factory setup. So right off the bat, you can tell that this is going to differ drastically from our factory setup in construction, in size, and a couple of the different accessories or add-ons that you see on the new Barricade front bumper. Now, starting off with size or the width, as you can see, this new option is going to be a stubby front bumper. That's going to open up a lot of room on the sides for larger wheels and tires. It's going to help out your approach angles while you're off-road, and it is going to create a very aggressive aesthetic to the front end of the Jeep in comparison to our factory front bumper that's going to have a standard width. Now, this does kind of curve up on the side, however, it's not really a lot to give you the advantage when it comes to approach angles or the space for any larger wheels and tires if you're looking for a pretty big upgrade. Now, this is also going to be a lot more durable, made of a steel construction in comparison to the factory plastics that we have going on here. Now, this is obviously going to have that crash bar that we saw in the back that is going to be steel. That is going to be thinner steel though. But when moving over to this Barricade front bumper, this will be able to take some abuse off-road, and of course, this will also give that heavy-duty off-road look, and that is thanks to the textured black powder coat finish on top. That's going to help out that aggressive aesthetic, but most importantly, it's going to protect that steel underneath from any rust or corrosion. Now, this front bumper is also going to have a number of different accessories that come with it, or advantages over the factory front bumper. Now, we will be able to keep the factory fog lights. That's one thing that does not change. However, they will be relocated to the center of the bumper instead of on the outsides. That is going to just change up the light pattern a little bit and make it a little bit more direct in front of the Jeep. Now, this is also going to have recovery points. On our factory front bumper, we have 2 tow hooks up at the top. They're not really that efficient. They will be able to be used if you do take your Jeep off-road and do get into a sticky situation, but when moving over to a D-ring and a welded D-ring mount, this is going to be a lot of a safer solution, and is also going to be a lot more efficient. Now, speaking of recovery, this will also come with a top-mounted winch plate capable of holding a winch with up to a 12,000 pound pulling capacity. So again, if you'd like to add on to this bumper for some extra recovery and that extra peace of mind while you're off-road, this front bumper will allow that. Now, not to mention, this will also have that bull bar up on top. It is a modular design, so you don't necessarily have to keep that on there all the time. I do particularly like that, considering you can kind of switch up the look. However, you will be able to bolt this up on top of the bumper, which you'll see in a second. That's going to give a little bit of grille protection. It's going to add to the look or the aesthetic of the front bumper. And you will also have light mounting options up on top of there if you'd like to add any accessory lighting or really mount up any accessory that you want or can fit up on top of that bull bar. And it's going to have some accenting on the outside, a honeycomb design, which again is just going to add to it that aftermarket and aggressive off-road aesthetic. So overall, you're getting a lot out of this front bumper setup that you're not really getting with the factory, getting a lot of function, protection, and style that the factory one is unable to offer. So what do you say we go ahead and put it together so we can get it on our Jeep? So what we can do now with our new bumper on the table is install our fog lights. Now, this is going to be set up right off the bat for sport fog lights. However, if you do have a Sahara and you have the 4 mounting locations, you can attach this bracket included in the kit to the bracket on the bumper. We're not going to use that since we are working on a sport, so we're going to plop this right in place. Then we can grab our provided hardware, which is our button head bolts, lock washers, and flat washers, and start to secure them down. So what I like to do because this hardware is small, is send the bolt up through the back. Then we can take the 2 flat washers, lock washer and nut, and secure that down. So for the inside ones, those are going to have threads. So what I'm going to do is just take the lock washer and flat washer and thread those into the 3 mounting locations on the inside. With this, you are provided an Allen key in order to do this. Just going to get them started, and then we'll be able to tighten them up. Now with a 7mm wrench and the Allen key, we can tighten up the outside bolt that does not have the threads. Then we can repeat that on the other side. So at this point, what we can do is plug in our factory fog light wiring harness. Plug this in on both sides. And what I do recommend while you're here is to take this excess and just tie this up out of the way. Makes it a little bit easier to work with when you mount up the bumper. Just gonna grab a zip tie, zip tie all this together. So what we can do now is install our bull bar. There is a bracket with 2 welded nuts. This is gonna go behind here and line up with the 2 front mounting locations. Then we can take our bull bar and we can start to thread that into place. Might be helpful to grab the provided Allen key just to help it get it started. Then we can take our provided hardware and do the same thing for the back too, except for we're not gonna have a welded nut plate for back there. We're gonna have 2 flat washers, lock washer, and a nut. Before we tighten these up, we need to get the other bolts in on the other side, and then we can go back and tighten everything down. What we can do now is take our provided Allen key and a 13mm wrench, and we can tighten those up. Now for the front 2, we're just going to use that Allen key since there is a welded nut plate. Then we can do the same thing on the other side. So the last thing that we have to do on the table is install our studs. We're gonna have a welded stud or nut plate like this. There's gonna be 1 stud and 1 welded nut. We're gonna place that inside of the bumper on this mounting location, and we're gonna have 4 for each mounting location on either side. Now we're also going to have a retainer clip to keep them in place once they're in the bumper. that'll stay in place. We'll get it on the Jeep after these other 3 are installed, and we can secure it down with the provided hardware. So once all the studs are through the frame, what we can do is take our provided hardware and secure that to the studs. Then we can take our provided bolt and put that through the bottom of the welded nut plate. And then you can tighten that up with the same 18mm socket. And then what we can do at this point is repeat that process for the other 6 studs. Then we can plug in our fog light wiring harness, make sure that that clicks. And then we can attach our D-rings. Then we can add our provided D-rings. These are just going to thread onto the D-ring mount. After those are on, then you're all set to go. So that's gonna wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe for more videos and products just like this, and always keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.